In the dry cradle of the Iranian plateau, where mountains ripple like petrified waves and time sleeps beneath layers of dust, there lie caverns seldom entered, and even less understood. These are not tourist caves with handrails and maps. They are remote, hidden deep within crags and folded cliffs, places without names on most modern maps. Places locals speak of only in hushed tones, if at all. And within them, etched into the very bones of the earth, are 7 carvings, 7 figures, 7 helmets. They stand frozen in walls of limestone and blackened basalt, each roughly man-shaped, yet eerily smooth. Their heads are large, rounded, their faces obscured, their torsos rigid and uniform, as if encased in armor. Tubes, visors, coils. It depends on who you ask. To some, they look like warriors. To others, priests. To a few, far fewer, they resemble astronauts. What are they? Who carved them? And more importantly, when? These are not sculptures of kings or beasts, common in Persian, Median, or Elamite art. There is no inscription, no language, no offering bowls, no weapons, just the silent figures, as though watching. But watching what? Across time and empire, Iran has known many faiths, many gods, many rulers. Yet these carvings do not belong to Zoroastrian fire temples, nor to the Islamic caliphates, nor to any known royal dynasty. They exist outside of history, and perhaps beyond it. And so begins the mystery. In this series, we will travel through myth and mountain, through stone and silence, unraveling what may be one of the strangest archaeological enigmas of the Middle East. Because sometimes history does not whisper, it stares. Iran, cradle of ancient empires and forgotten faiths, is also a land riddled with stone. Beneath its mountains and deserts lies a labyrinth of caverns, natural and man-made, carved by time, water, and hand. From the harsh Zagros range to the lonely cliffs of Kerman, caves have long served as shelters, shrines, tombs, and sometimes vaults of secrets. Some, like the Shapur cave near Bishapur, still bear the marks of imperial grandeur, colossal reliefs of kings on horseback and gods in triumph. Others, like the Ali Sadr cave, stretch for miles in silent darkness, their walls dripping with mineral memory. But the caves we speak of now, the 7 with the helmeted figures, are different. They are not part of tour routes. They do not appear in guidebooks. They are spoken of mostly in local rumor, by goat herders, shepherds, and the occasional university dropout with a camera and a theory. They are located in scattered regions. Whispers point to Luristan, to Hamadan, to remote areas near Yazd. Some are nearly inaccessible without ropes. Others have entrances so narrow, even light hesitates to enter. But what ties them together is not geography. It is the carving. Each site features one humanoid form, always recessed into the stone wall, always facing forward, always possessing the same strange features: a dome-like head, a slit or visor where eyes might be, and what look like ridges or tubing on either side of the neck. They do not resemble Sassanian art, which was ornate and flowing. They do not match Achaemenid style, known for its rigidity and symmetry. They are too smooth, too modern, too engineered. Geologists who've stumbled upon photos say the wear and chisel marks, if any, are nearly erased, as if the surface had been polished down, or perhaps melted. Could they be hoaxes? Experts debate, or rather avoid debating, because no formal excavation has ever been granted. The locations are either too remote or too politically sensitive, or too strange. A few freelance researchers have tried to document them. Their findings vanish into obscure forums, untranslated Persian blogs, or YouTube clips with under 500 views. But a pattern emerges, subtle, persistent. 7 sites, 7 figures, similar poses, similar faces, and most chilling of all, similar damage. Each of the 7 figures bears a wound, not of time nor of vandalism, but of force. Across the separate cave sites, observers have noted something strange, something nearly identical. The rock surrounding each carving is darkened, in places blackened, as though subjected to intense heat. Some surfaces ripple like cooled glass, others are fractured in unnatural patterns, not from erosion, but something sudden, like a burst, like a flash. In one cave in western Iran, the ceiling above the figure is partially collapsed, yet the carving itself remains eerily intact, save for a single crack across the helmet. In another, in the Central Highlands, the floor around the carving has vitrified patches, stone turned glass, not in a circle, but in an arc, as if something had exploded from within the figure, or had been aimed at it. Could it be lightning? Could it be fire? Perhaps. But then why do geologists who've analyzed photographs suggest heat levels exceeding several thousand degrees Celsius, temperatures associated not with nature, but with war, or more precisely, with weapons? This is where official archaeologists tend to close the folder and walk away. But independent voices, rogue geologists, fringe historians, and curious engineers keep the conversation alive in obscure corners of the internet. They note that similar patterns of melted rock have been found elsewhere, in Mohenjo-Daro's skeletons, in the vitrified forts of Scotland, in the scorched ruins near ancient Sodom, always accompanied by legends of divine punishment or cosmic war. One researcher, an ex-physicist from Shiraz University, published an anonymous blog post describing the cave stones as showing evidence of thermal radiation and directional force. The post was scrubbed a week later. No copies survive, except for a few screenshots passed around in private Discord groups, and so the figures remain, scorched, cracked, and silent. But what could have struck them? And more importantly, what were they meant to survive? Or were they never struck at all? What if the burns came from within? Before Islam spread its crescent across Persia, another faith held sway: Zoroastrianism, the fire religion. It spoke of Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Light, and Ahriman, the demon of darkness, of dualities, cosmic battles, sacred fire temples, and eternal flame. But hidden within the Yasna texts and the Gathas, in their cryptic invocations and celestial metaphors, lie stranger phrases still. Those clothed in flame, messengers whose faces were hidden behind brightness, beings who came not walking, but flying upon wheels of burning wind. To the modern eye, they are poems, symbols, allegories. But what if they were not? What if they were memories? Iranian oral tradition, especially among the Zoroastrian Yazdi, tells of those who stepped from the sky in mirrors of gold, of teachers who glowed like coal, who never ate, who spoke in silence, and then, one day, vanished. Or worse, burned in a storm of light as punishment from above. The priests say the fire is sacred, but never to be touched. They speak of times when the holy flame flared without wood, when it screamed, when it moved. What if these legends are not metaphor, but echoes of an encounter? Several scholars, cautiously, carefully, have drawn comparisons between the cave carvings and Zoroastrian imagery. The head domes resembled depictions of fire crowns in later manuscripts. The lack of facial features mirrors how divine beings were often veiled in radiance, never shown directly. The armor-like torsos bear faint resemblance to depictions of heaven's guardians, a class of beings said to guard the boundary between realms. And then, there is the symbol. At least 2 carvings, though worn and difficult to document, bear strange glyphs near the feet. They do not match old Persian cuneiform. They do not align with Elamite, Median, or Sogdian. They curve and interlock like circuit diagrams. Or perhaps star maps? What were these beings? If they were divine, why did they fall? If they were men, why were they buried in fire? In the 1970s, amid the haze of Cold War secrets and a growing fascination with ancient mysteries, an obscure Iranian historian published a private monograph. His name was Dr. Humayun K., a professor at a provincial university near Shiraz. His specialty? Pre-Achaemenid myth cycles, a field few dared to tread. But it was his side obsession that consumed him, the so-called helmeted watchers of the Zagros caves. He proposed something dangerous. He called them not carvings but portraits, not symbols but records, and not of gods but of kings. Kings not born of earth. His theory? That in the deep past, before Elam, before Susa, before the very idea of Iran, the Zagros Mountains were home to an extraterrestrial colony, stranded or stationed on Earth. That the 7 figures represented either their leaders or their fallen. He called them the astronaut kings. According to his unpublished notes, which survived only as photocopies circulated among fringe scholars, the caves align loosely with an ancient star pattern, a broken spiral resembling the Pleiades. He cited obscure inscriptions from Mesopotamia, mentioning the shining lords of the mountain and the men with burning faces who descended in the age before memory. He cross-referenced the timelines with catastrophic climatic events, specifically sudden temperature spikes in the early Holocene and black ash layers buried beneath certain Iranian salt flats. He speculated that the vitrified stone, the burns, the symmetry, all pointed to a weapon or a ship or an explosion far beyond our understanding. He was discredited, silenced. His name scrubbed from university archives after the revolution. But his work did not die. It moved underground, into the hands of European paleocontact theorists, German fringe publications, and encrypted forums discussing the Watchers of the East. And as satellite imagery improved in the 2000s, something strange emerged. Near the sites of the carvings, faint ground deformations, linear ridges, concentric subsidence rings, heat scars became visible, not random, not natural. Some said they resembled launch pads, others impact sites. Could these be the burial grounds of broken craft? Could the 7 figures be the last sentinels of an ancient cosmic tragedy? If so, who or what destroyed them? And why was the knowledge buried, both in stone and in silence? If the caves are real, and they are. If the figures are carved, and they are. If the stone is burned, the rock is melted, and the faces remain blank, then why is there no mention in official records, no documentaries, no state archives, no tourist guides, only whispers? In 2014, a group of student researchers from Tehran University conducted a limited field survey near one of the known caves. 3 months later, their project was abruptly shut down. Equipment confiscated. No findings published. One student, the only one who posted about the experience online, later deleted his account entirely. He had written a single sentence: "We were told not to look further, especially at the seventh one." What seventh one? Only 6 locations have been publicly mapped, but older photographs, taken before access was restricted, suggest a 7th carving, half buried in a collapsed chamber near the Lut Desert's edge. It's said to be the most intact and the most lifelike. Some believe this carving displays not just a helmet and torso, but arms extended downward, and a tablet-like object clutched to its chest. One photograph, blurred, probably taken through binoculars, appears to show glyphs glowing faintly in the stone. Not reflections, not moss. There is no official comment. Local villagers, when asked, offer only a proverb: "Where the stone watches you, you must not watch back." And what of the burned stone? The melted glass? No official lab reports have been released. No museum has taken custody of any fragments. Samples sent abroad mysteriously never arrive at their destinations. A French chemist in 2008 claimed to have obtained a sliver of cave glass from a collector in Tabriz. She described it as stone fused at molecular level, as if by high-frequency plasma or radiation not currently known in civilian use. Shortly after, her research was retracted. No further statements. And so, the carvings remain. Real, present, physical, yet absent from conversation. The silence is louder than denial, as though the world itself conspires to unsee them. And in that silence, one must ask, what truth is so dangerous? It must be hidden in plain sight. There is a legend told in hushed tones among the czar cults of southern Iran, those who still whisper to winds and speak to fire. It tells of a time not yet come when the sky will burn gold again, and the watchers will rise from stone. 7 sealed beneath fire, the chant says, 7 veiled by time. When the sky cracks open and stars fall like arrows, they shall awaken, bearing memory not of this world. To most, it is myth. To some, a warning. In 2021, a seismic anomaly was recorded beneath one of the cave systems. Not an earthquake, not tectonic movement, but a pulse, rhythmic, low frequency, as though something deep below had stirred. It lasted only 11 seconds, but those who heard it described a feeling of pressure in the chest and a hum that made the bones vibrate. No natural explanation was given. Since then, the area has seen increased military presence. Drones patrol, roads are blocked, satellite maps are curiously outdated. One researcher joked darkly, "The mountains are breathing, and someone is trying to smother them." But the carvings remain, eternal, unmoving, yet strangely patient. Their blank eyes gaze forward, not down. Their heads tilt as though listening. Their symmetry suggests alignment with something not of Earth. What were they watching for? What were they guarding? What if they are not monuments, but markers, coordinates, beacons, or worse, locks? And if they are locks, what happens when they break? We are taught that the ancients looked upward to worship. But what if they looked upward in fear? And what if the helmets were not for protection, but for command? In the shadows of the Zagros Mountains, the winds still whisper. Crows perch on silent shoulders of faceless watchers. No names, no eyes, no answers. But the carvings endure. Not because we remember, but because they do. So now, the question is no longer what were they, but rather, what happens when they return? If this story stirred something ancient within you, If these questions haunt you long after the screen fades, then do not let this tale be buried like the rest. Comment below. What do you believe the carvings represent? Subscribe to explore more forbidden mysteries hidden in stone, sand, and silence. And remember, sometimes the past isn't behind us, it's waiting.